Well, do you all know Triple J? Resident new developing assistant to Andy Peatling. My name is Mike Pratt, and I'm just a BP user, really, hacker, everything else. But I've been hacking around with it since these guys started in early alpha, and I'll tell you what I'm up to when I do. You're looking at my development site, which is just, I don't really theme it much. I just it's where I test everything and before I send it live. First question I want to ask is, how many people are running WordPress live or in a development environment right now? Okay, good. So we're pretty newbie then, right? Of the ones running BuddyPress, do you feel really comfortable with it, or you really want to stay basic?
Still really learning how
to
get it to do what I want.
Sure. Okay. Then my first thought is I'm going to kind of stick to some conceptual BP stuff, and we'll talk about that. And this guy is the really uber technical one if we want to get down and dirty on technical questions, where we can go back and forth. I don't want to pontificate or go on and on, but I would tell you that you will save yourself a ton of heartache if you try and put some thought into what you're trying to build before you just start playing with BuddyPress. Playing is fine and it's all great. I love to download plugins and see how they work, etc. But I save myself a lot of heartache by taking a look at BuddyPress, then stepping back and going, okay, what do I want to achieve? Now, how does that translate into what I did? I went to West Point, and it's a small community of graduates. There's about 30,000 living graduates at West Point right now. So I already know my max community size is 30,000. But there's nothing out there right now that helps us graduates, which you can imagine are a very close group of people. And we already have this natural affinity. There's a grad in the other Navy? Navy, you can go to 8150 and just how funny is that? Nice win yesterday. So this guy could attest to it as well. It's a natural affinity group, so I already knew that I didn't have to build the affinity of the group. What my challenge was is that nothing existed in order to promote and get people engaging and doing things that I knew they already wanted to do. So that's what I tried to build, and I sat back and said, what about the construction of a BuddyPress site lends itself in every way, shape, and facet to that engagement, promoting that engagement? If it doesn't, then it's second on my list of important stuff. And everything I do really speaks to that. Believe it or not, the hacks that we make into BuddyPress, you might think are the most trivial, and I'm sure Andy sometimes doesn't even think of it because he's developing core functionality. But the littlest hacks have made the biggest difference on getting engagement to go from here to here on a particular facet. So like I said, the more thought into what do I really want to achieve? And of the affinity group that I'm trying to promote and create a community for, what do they need? And what might make them interact versus not interact? That will help steer how you build things. Okay.
To touch on that, if you can.
Please.
Like BuddyPress out of the box is kind of a lot like WordPress. How it works is that everything is very like on an even keel together. You know, there's nothing that stops you from using WordPress to just make a bunch of pages. It doesn't even have to be a blog. You can just page your way through it, or you can have a bunch of posts. You can be very blog specific and not even have any pages. BuddyPress is kind of that same way, but there's more components. So you have a groups element, and you have private messaging, and you can add each other's friends and have status updates. But they're all kind of, you go to one place, you do the thing. You go to the next place, you do the thing. You go to the next place, you do the thing. And touch on what Mike said is that, you know, the idea behind it, I think, is to pick the part of it that you think will be the most useful, and then build your theme or build your website kind of around that element that encompasses it. You know, if you've ever been to, like, I've used this before, but if you've been to like meetup.com ever, you know, you can look at how that website looks and say, okay, they have an activity stream. Everything is about groups. A group can have a forum. Those are all things that BuddyPress, it's what it does, you know. And then you can look at status updates, and then you can look at how the wire works. And you can say, okay, well, this is kind of like a Twitter. You know, you can talk back and forth and update your status. It shows up on your feed. You can pick and choose which element of your site that you think your community wants, and then just theme it around those things. If it's like a forum, it's like a support forum, it's forum-centric, and you just change up the way that the group forums look to look more like a forum instead of looking like a group of, because it's just a forum inside a little box of a group, you know. So when you start assembling a site, it's not any different than when you decide to use WordPress. Am I going to have content, pages, or how am I going to lay that out? It's the same thought process.
Now, depending on your familiarity with WordPress and WordPress MU and all that, and I'm not talking about the install process and all that, but what I'm really talking about are some of the logical constructs on how it works, like the blog concept. What do I want to do with a blog? That can also dictate, and I'll give you an example. So one thing we thought about was, okay, we've got 30,000 graduates. I don't think they really want to come to a place where they can create their own blog. That's not what they're looking to do. They're looking to engage with each other. But that said, I said, well, what can I use the blogs for? How do I use that concept? So for example, you see right here where on the menu I've got blogs, or I've got blog, excuse me, and then over here we've got something called the poop deck, which aside from its name is just it's an old part of a castle sitting inside the dining facility, which is where announcements are made. It's 200 years old, and poop is considered information that's distributed to the core cadets. And so the poop deck is a logical construct that they're like, yeah, that's for announcements. And so I created a poop deck announcements widget to just show headliners, okay? And this is an old style. I've actually condensed it even more because it ended up looking too much like blog posts. And I used a blog for that. I created a separate blog, and I'll show you when I go to it. Actually, I won't go to it right now because I'll show you, I'll get to something else that I did. But it's at mjpratt.com/poop deck. Now, the users don't know, don't care, and it doesn't matter to them that it's actually a blog, okay? They just think when they go to it, they're submitting a post, which is an announcement. All the users do it, and it's actually worked out great. So there's a good example of how I used something in the framework to make what I wanted to work, and they don't know the difference. We also have a blog. Yes, ma'am.
Since when you go to the other site,
What do you mean the other site?
I mean, when it shows up, is poop deck like a category? Like, you know how on like a normal WordPress blog, if someone went to click on something, is poop deck, does it just show up as like a category? Or
I'm going to show you it live. The answer is no.
Are you familiar with like WordPress MU? Have you touched it?
I use WordPress. I'm creating a community site, and I literally want to call it community bulletin board.
Sure.
And what he's talking about, poop deck, is exactly how I want people to put up information, and there will be a category on the website that says community bulletin board.
Right.
And what I was thinking about when I got here was going to, multi-user, but they're changing multi-user or something, or...
Don't worry about that.
Okay, do you see this? This is my live site, okay? Here's the poop deck. Wait, Lisa Steptoe created who's a classmate of mine, created an announcement a couple weeks ago or last week right here. Her company launched a healthcare training curriculum, okay? It shows up on this poop deck widget, all right? If I go to the poop deck, which you see now, I use the subfolder concept, not the subdomain, because this is important. I chose this concept because poopdecks.buglenotes.com would only serve to confuse my users. But they understand what it means when they're at buglenotes.com/poopdeck. Okay, so here I am, and you know what it is? It's just a blog, and here they are. Here are all the blog posts. Okay, they don't know the difference. The menu and the header are all the same. I created literally, once I had my main theme, I duped it over, all right, and tweaked a few things and said, I called it the poop deck theme and chose it for that blog. Users have no clue that that's going on. Yes?
Now, I saw that you signed in. If you didn't sign in, could you not see this?
No, in my case, I've made it public. We have a model on our site where we consider ourselves like C-SPAN, okay? Mm-hmm. Meaning you can watch, but you can't participate. So, and that's served our model well because we didn't want it to be, when everything was purely private, it tends to like allow the flamers to go crazy. We wanted the antiseptic of sunlight to take charge and have people put out stuff that they'd be proud of in public, but we limit who can participate, i.e. you have to be a grad.
Okay, so how do you deal with membership and permissions and stuff like that? Is it manually you?
Permissions to do what?
To become a member of this.
Oh, well right now it's me. But it's easy because I have a relatively limited subset to check against. And it's funny, in a year that we've been live, we've had maybe 10 people, all Russian, try to join, and I delete them.
But I mean, I assume that West Point won't give you the list of 30,000
I have a
grads.
list. I haven't sent it out to them because I'm in like this kind of, we have 1,000 members. I'm not ready to go Uber live right now with it. I'm still semi-testing. But when we do announce it, yeah, West Point's actually blessed us, which is crazy.
Oh, that's
well, they
great.
blessed us because they don't think it's that big of a deal.
That's awesome.
Which is ironic. So it's like they don't care. So that sure.
So you just
use the
check
list.
manually against the list to see if, Joe Schmo was class of.
Now, there's something you bring up. It's interesting because every graduate's given a number, and that database exists too. And we think one day we may go into enter your grad number, what's called a column number,
Sure.
and do a verification that way. But right now, I'm trying to make it easy to join.
Yeah.
So I haven't done that.
How do you prevent spammers or somebody, if for my site, I wanted to be open to the public, but, I don't want spammers, I guess, who are like,
Conceptually, it's easier for me because I know that there's a limited set of graduates to check against. For you, where and this is important, if you're creating a community where you're like, hey, I have a topic I think people want to rally around, but I don't know who they are, they're going to come to me, you have the additional problem of determining whether they're for real. There's obviously all the spam checkers and things to look at that, but yeah, it's a little bit of an issue.
There's a plugin called Sabre, I think, S-A-B-R-E, which is a thing which it goes through. You can put in all these little tests and checks. It'll knock out all the bots and stuff. They have to solve mathematical problems and all this kind of
And
thing.
what I try to tell people, which, it depends on your setup and what you want, like what your expectations are for your website, but the way that WordPress MU kind of works is that when you register for a website, or any website that uses MU, instead of just instantly being on and being good and there you are and you're in, and you have settings that you can say, like, this person, like, when you sign up, you get a blog immediately, or you don't get a blog at all, or you can only start a blog once you have been, like, a confirmed member. And what happens is, like, when the activation email goes out, if they don't click it, that sign up will eventually get purged out. So, like, as long as they don't click on somehow that bot, hit that email and activate their account, then you'll get the sign up. Okay, somebody signed up for my site, they're not going to do anything. So if that bot clicks that email and activates themselves, then what I say is, if you're really worried about spam, then just don't have a blog on sign up. Wait until they've confirmed themselves as a member, and then they can go create blog, and then they can make one.
Or even then, if you want to add something which is actually contextual, you could put in literally, and how much you make it a pain in the butt to join is directly related to your level of spammers. You could you're making a gardening site for gardeners, and you may put in tell me why you love gardening, and then you're going to filter out all the spam bots that way. Just as an example, yeah.
When you have the announcement sections, what does the front end look like when the
Oh, you're better than a plant. That is so the perfect segue to what I was about to say. We talked about this a little bit. I see Andy showed up. In the future, there's going to be posting from the front end, and whenever it happens, it happens. And it's funny you say that because I'm using a blog for an announcement section, and that obviously says it's not really like posting blogs. People aren't taking hours and writing drafts and all that stuff like that. I wanted to make it simpler, but the back end through people, particularly the older graduates who are like, well, where did I just go? So I'm toying, and I'm literally started this before I just got down here this weekend with, here's an example as a workaround that I'm going to try. The P2 theme that Matt and the WordPress folks developed is for live instant blogging from the front end. And it actually, let me show you something. I've installed it here. I'm using it unskinned. This is exactly how it comes out of the box. I'm going to have to change it, add my header back in, and fix some colorization, stuff like that. But look at this. This is a perfect example of why any theme works in BuddyPress. I just said, poop deck, my theme is P2, and here I have it. Now watch. Poof. Coolness.
We have poop.
Yeah. And now look. Test poop deck post. I will make that theme. I'll just go in and tweak it up a little bit so that the user has no clue that they're in another blog with another theme like that. It just looks like a pretty little entry form for them. P2 is the name of the theme. It's a WordPress built theme. I don't know if Matt built it or somebody else, but if you Google it, you'll find it. It's in the repository, and download it, add it, activate it, and you're good.
What you just did, that would solve my problem. Like, instead of everybody emailing me stuff, they could just like copy and paste something in that form thing, whatever, and that's it.
Again, like, we have various things. Now, blog posts, we thought about, well, maybe we should moderate them because they're more thoughtful, and maybe we want to, make sure they're all going to the right places, that kind of thing. This we don't moderate. We want it to be like, you got an announcement, poof it out there, and it's good to go. And it's been a big hit. The better styled version, of course.
What are you using a plugin for the specific announcements for that blog?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
What are you using?
This widget?
That widget's not part of BuddyPress.
No, but all it is this is the beauty of it. If you're not a coder, you don't have to start everything from scratch. You can go in and take an existing widget, tweak it a little bit, name it your own, and guess what? You have a poop deck announcement widget. So I went in and because I know I didn't need to reinvent the wheel, whether I could or not, and I took the blog post widget, restyled it, changed the loop to make sure I was providing the information I wanted it to provide, added it in there, and dragged it on, and I'm good to go. I know that may intimidate some folks, and it takes some playing around with and getting used to, but you don't have to be like code from scratch person to do a lot of things, believe it or not.
Are you gonna put that up in like the repo? Like the way that
I guess I could put this widget up there, but sometimes I wonder, is there anything special about this widget? I mean,
it doesn't have to be special. It's useful.
Poop deck widget.
Yeah.
Poop widget.
I could call it it's just kind of like, it's really just a trimmed down recent blog post widget. And so, yeah, I could put it up, sure.
Well, and as MU and as people start to become more familiar with it, you'll see a lot more like multi-blog related widgets and plugins and stuff that will do exactly that. Yeah. Maybe somebody will want to pull a bunch of blog posts from one blog, pull them on with another. That's exactly what that does.
Before I show you one other thing, though, were there any other questions along this track? This events on the top right here is Erwin Garrett's plugin, which is I highly recommend. Just keep paying attention to. It's really close to being released for live use. It's at your own risk right now. I have not gone live with it, although I probably would feel comfortable.
What's the official name?
BP Events, and it is trying to become the Facebook events model. Basically, it's to allow members, and I put one in here for I just created one called Army Navy Tailgate. Okay, and I'll go into the event. And here it is, and date, time. Frankly, if he doesn't, I'm probably going to tweak it to be like, an event doesn't have members in my mind, it has attendees. Those types of things, I would tell you, can make all the difference in how your engagement level works on your site. Because you'll have people going like, what does it mean to be a member of an event? You're going to get those. I know Andy doesn't get those level of complaints by any stretch, but that's your domain to tweak and change and say, well, what works for my users? But yeah, this looks like it's going to be a great plugin because you can comment on it. Eventually, obviously, you'll be able to add photos for the event and all sorts of stuff, send invites, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he has a events directory right here, obviously taking a cue from just the standard BuddyPress directory methodology. So there's lots of stuff that can really add usefulness to your site. What else? Anyway, where else do you want to go? Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
associated with the calendar in any way, the events?
He has a calendaring function. That's the one thing he hasn't released yet, which will show events on a calendar and will allow you to mess around with that. I think there's a calendar widget he's going to provide, which may or may not be useful because, I mean, how much information can you get onto a widget of a calendar? You can either color the numbers or not.
I believe with an older version he had one, but when we moved to to BuddyPress 1.1, the plugin was not 100% compatible right away. So I think he ditched the calendar while he rewrote it. So I think he's going to put that back in soon.
The other thing he's got to put back in is, and I think he's dumped GeoPress, so for another plugin, but is a Google Maps plugin for the location of the event. on stuff like this. This is important to me because I know that the moment that I introduce this, it will foster engagement, kind of thing. Another thing I plug in, we're scratching with right now. We haven't really figured out a way to go with it, but is a plugin that for us that allows graduates to see who's near them, and associate by geographic proximity. One thing that this is also important. Let me go into a profile. Okay, I didn't fill that out. Hold on, let me go into the edit. Okay. We added fields, pre-populated fields for class year for a cadet company. Every cadet has a company, regiments 1 through 4, companies A through I. And you stay with that company, and there's a real affinity naturally formed by that company. We auto-join them. We wrote a plugin, and that plugin is on the repository to have in the sign-up process. One moment.
Is your plugin public for everybody?
Yeah. We require class year and cadet company along with birthday, which we don't do anything with yet, but I think we'll tie that into calendars and things like that as time goes on. And it auto joins them to groups, which we've already pre-created. And for example, here's one. This is just development, so there's not a ton of them, but here's a 1987 class group. You get auto joined. Before we did that, you got to remember that if you have something where there's a large number of groups, so we have 80 classes, from this year down to 1943 is the oldest living grad right now or something, and believe it or not, he joined. I just don't think he has a lot else going on right now in his world, and he's on the internet. So, 80 groups. The last thing on a user's mind might be, unless you say, hey, go ahead and make sure you join your group, and then they got to think to do it, and trust me, they weren't doing it that much. Auto-joining it, they immediately started going to the groups, so you may have a case where that makes a lot of sense. Sure.
Do you have any distinction between like these groups that they have this affinity for and groups that they might create on their own?
Oh, good question. Hold on. Yes, we do.
Before you do that,
Yeah.
can you just tell me what you just talked about? Do you have a plugin that auto joins them, or
Yes.
have you done that?
It's a group auto join plugin. I don't remember the exact name. It's on the repository.
Okay, thanks.
All it does is it in the back end it gives you a menu item that allows you, and it'll show you a field, and then you'll pick the field and you can actually put in wildcards.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, we do the field where it's just star class year.
Mm-hmm.
And when they pick their year, it auto joins them to the group that you say to auto join.
Okay.
Okay? And the wildcard allows us, for example, because I have 80 groups, USME 87, USME 88, blah, blah, blah. And so, you don't have to go through and map every single one.
Right.
What did I want to, we had your question.
The difference between like the groups that people create and their
Right, let me show you
So
something.
we have, like, one category of groups is who work for a company or a record label, and then another is the New York chapter of this trade association that we're working with. Anybody who's in the trade association can join the New York chapter, but you can't join a company if you don't work for them.
The tools are all there. You construct it in order to meet the process that you think needs to be in place. So that's a combination of whether you're going to moderate the joining of the group, whether it's going to be a site administrator moderates the joining of the group, or you're going to allow someone to create their own group and then moderate the joining, or whether you'll leave it as a free-for-all. We have a combination of all of them, actually. So let me show you. Here's the live site. So group 1987 has 211 members, okay? Each cadet is a member of a company, as I told you, so here's E4 and D2. The 12th man, I created these groups, and I moderate them, all right? The 12th man training table is just a nutrition group for grads that are interested in training and nutrition. It wasn't created by me, it was created by a grad, and it's moderated completely by him. So I don't kind of get involved with that, and it's actually one of the most popular groups, or in terms of activity. It's always busy.
So can someone moderate groups without being an admin of the site?
Yes, you're the group admin.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, if you create the group, then you're as good as the site admin for that group. You can ban people, or you can join them in.
And if the group goes nuts, is it easy to shut them down?
Sure.
And you could, you could push the button and delete the whole group and blow it all out of there too, if it was something that you just didn't approve of, and don't want it on your site or whatever else.
Hey, you know what? I'm sorry.
Oh, and there's 3 sets, like 3 different ways to create a group. It's public, private, and hidden. So you can make a completely hidden group that if you're not part of, you don't even see. It doesn't show up in the list.
That's great.
It's not even part of it. So it's like a system group in a way.
Okay.
If you need to group people together for yourself, it looks exactly like a group, but if you're not in it, you don't even know it's there.
Here's something that kind of subtly showed up, and I don't know why I wasn't paying attention to it, but it turned out, because as a builder of a community, you're going to be focused on building the community, and you're going to sometimes forget that you got to moderate the community and see how it's evolving and let that guide your decisions. And I look in here one day and I'm like, check this out up there. I'm like, wow, admin options. I didn't even realize that was there, and I can mess around with every single user as an admin. That's power that could be abused. But what I use, and you look, mark it as spammer. What I do it as, sometimes you're going to get users that, I kind of like to keep things looking good and pretty, because a lot of our users are not savvy, all right? So we, for example, don't show username throughout the site, because guys are, I joke from Transformers, Ladies Man 269 or whatever. I don't want Ladies Man 269 just became a friend with, Dork Monster, blah, blah, blah. Because it just, guys are like, who's Dork Monster? And I know on the web, sometimes you like to have that identity and leave it at that. But on our niche, first name, last name means everything. I'm going to show you something that actually, it's a behavior that started happening, and we're going to do something with it. And that is, this guy, Basil Wilder joined. He's class of 96. He created his display name, which we left in there as James Montgomery likes to change it to Jim Montgomery, okay? But he puts his full name in. Basil added his class year on there because he just wanted it to be identified that way. And we've gotten some emails from users saying it would be awesome if everybody, because we already have their class, we're going to actually attach just the last 2 of their class to the display everywhere across the site. So it's going to be Mike Pratt 87. And that way I can go back and take 96 out of his display name and leave it as such. And that will have a big, powerful one, because classes across the ages interacting with each other also has a powerful effect. And people are like, wow, check that, that really old dude interacting with a new grad kind of thing. So,
Dicey.
what's that?
I'm just thinking of Carl, 97, interacting with Mary, 1982, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But again, people sometimes don't give a lot of thought to it. Understanding your community or where you think your community is going to go can be a huge factor in how you guide the behavior of them and what you let them do or what you not let them do. And all the tools are here in order to take it there.
Can I ask you, this might be out of it, but we don't really want people to just, this proof deck thing is great because we can auto-assign them to that. We don't really want them to have their own blogs unless they apply for them and we think that what they're interested in writing about is what we want, because it's a niche community, so we don't want somebody to sign up and start writing about bicycling. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe we'll change our mind if we're going down the road.
Well, let me ask real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt. What's the subject? If you mind.
Every time I mention this, it's geeky, so I'll say it in general. It's
we're all
okay.
yeah.
Well,
You're among friends.
I work for the OneRing.net, which is the Lord of the Rings movie site, and we have about 1,000 plus registered users on a forum that dates back to the site. It's not really up to date, so I'm trying to build out this new if you want to interact. But, we've got crazy people who write fan fiction and stuff. We don't want to go there. It's a family-friendly site, so I don't want people to just be able to sign up for a blog and start talking about how much they love this actor.
You don't have to, keep in mind that just, you want people to create posts, right?
Yeah.
You can have one blog for that, and then allow people to be authors on that blog, or you can let them all create their own blog. It's your call. Okay. And there's pros and cons for going in both directions.
Right. See, that approach I never thought of, about having a blog that kind of all were authors of, because that would solve some of
And you could make it so if you're a little bit concerned about content, you could make it a blog where you make it semi-easy to contribute postings, but you require a little bit of hand-holding before it goes out into the ether.
Right, so having sort of signed up as contributors can do that?
Yeah, you can say, you know, and matter of fact, there's plugins for it, and there's selections that you can make in the back end natively on what you want roles for people to have when they join the blog. As an example, real quick, I'm sorry. For the poop deck, we assign the role of contributor, not author. I don't want people editing other people's text, not editor and like that, not admin, but we just make everybody, the moment you go there, you're a contributor, and that's it.
And you can do that, like, logistically, when you think of, like, the strength of one WordPress installation, and how you can have multiple users all posting in categories and doing that. Well, now, like with multiple blogs, it's logistically you have unlimited options. If you want to have a blog called Poop Deck and then start another blog maybe for only grads of some
Well, look up there. Do you see AI?
Right.
AI is our term, additional instruction. That's our government term for help. But every grad, if you say you need some AI, they know exactly what you mean. That is, right there, that's help. They go there and it's a blog.
Okay.
And I used it, and nobody can contribute to it. It's where our staff puts up pieces to help people.
We're running actually as a subdomain too, because we have a main site that's sitting in
Right.
And I had asked if we could just turn off blogs altogether and mute and have it recognized, and I think
Sure you
it's a
can.
track ticket now. For
Sure you
that,
can.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
How far do you think this? I mean, we just went through a website conversion at my school, and part of that was getting alumni portal, which is basically what you set up.
Yeah.
How far can that go? Like,
I'm planning on pushing it really far.
Can we push it to handle like Ohio State? We're talking. How big can it go?
Ask him.
That's a good question.
I know I have 30,000. I'm maxed out. Ohio State, a whole different story. You know, it's a good question. Probably, perhaps. I don't know. We have, for 1,000 members, that I would still call it like, you know, late beta. It's live, and so they don't know that it's in beta, but it's nowhere near where I know it's going to be in the future. They're really active, and they've created 75,000 actions, site-wide activity actions, blog posts, comments, forum comments, topics, in just 6 months.
I think the best answer would be that when you look at BuddyPress.org, I mean, every user that's signed up for a WordPress account is part of BuddyPress.org. You sign right in, you can post, you can make a group, you can do all those actions. And I mean, there's 1 million registered users all over the whole board of it. However many of those are active at any one given time, you know, a couple hundred here or there a day at the same time, doing whatever. Obviously, they have the strength of the WordPress server behind them, but otherwise, I mean, it works, you know, just fine.
It's not the software that limits the infrastructure.
Exactly.
Say that again?
I said it's not the software that will be the limit, it's what you put it on the servers you use, your security.
Right. And like a lot of the time what they say is to stay off of like a shared hosting plan, you know, that kind of thing. Just they're going to get mad at you, you know, if you've got your basic, you know, $5 a month hosting package. They're just going to yell at you and say get that off of it.
Think about it. If you're building a community, you already know that your objective is that you're going to be a busy community. That's what you want it to be, right? So like this is running on I own my own dedicated host, so you know, so I can do what I want. I'm not sure I'd ever go shared for community building. Yeah.
Can you give any sort of boundaries or sense of administrative time associated with groups by size or by number of features that you have, number of components that you're using, to sort of give a sense of how do you have to plan at that end for what you want to do?
What do you mean by administrative time? The time I spend.
Yeah, whoever is monitoring these things and saying, oh gee, you know, I want to make 96 or the year and all the names, I'm going to change this, I'm going to do that. Who wants to look at posts in a certain area and check them out before they go in, or look at the names the way you're talking about it, tweak things and manage to a certain extent.
Sure. Well, I keep. Good question. I wanted it to be as much fire and forget as I could make it. For one, every class has an administrator for the group, and they tend to moderate content. but there's not, believe it or not, the more niche and affinity like your community is, the less moderation really needs to happen. There's almost no content moderation going on because, you know, we tend to be good rule followers in our particular group, for one. But in terms of higher level administration and what groups look like and all that, I tend to control that, and no one has complained. They've made suggestions. It would be great if groups could do this or like this and that, but nobody's sitting there going, man, I really want to be able to tweak my own group layout and all that. They're not there to do that. So what I try to do is be as responsive as I can to make it as easy for them to engage. And frankly, I've got a pulse to follow. Are they engaging or not? You know? And little changes. I mean, little changes. Let me show you something. That's important, that will blow your mind.
While you're finding it, I think that like something, like when you have one blog and you're talking out to the world, you have your theme and you style it and you have your blog and it's just you as one thing. But when you start building a community of people, it could turn into a full-time job, you know what I mean? I mean, you really could spend a lot of time adjusting to what people maybe think that they want to use because you don't know. You end up reacting a little bit to whatever it is that you think works or helps your audience. So it's just however much that you can put into it is kind of.
How many questions do you get from people saying, I'd love this, I'd love that, what do you think about this?
2 or 3 a day. It's mind-numbing sometimes.
Yeah.
Well,
because each one of those could be a chunk of, you know.
That's part of the mantle you assume when you become a community builder. Yeah.
How much of this is livelihood and how much is this hobby for you? I'm curious.
This is pure hobby. Pure hobby.
That's a lot of that's a big.
I'm in the finance industry as a day job. Yeah, I do this at night.
No kids.
I have 2 boys, 4 dogs.
What group are they in? The class of 20?
The Knuckleheads group. Yes.
So on the homepage where you have the announcements and you have the 2 separate blogs with the announcements and the help, can you pull content from both blogs into that one announcements widget?
Well, I guess you'd ask yourself, why would you want to? And if you want to have content from, you're saying that they're related enough that you want to put them? Yeah, sure, you
Well,
can.
let's say like multiple blogs on a site. Let's say somebody has one particular blog on film, somebody else has another blog on television, and you want to pull recent posts from both blogs into one.
The answer is yes. It's actually not that hard to do. A plugin would have to be written where you'd have to create the widget so that it pulled in content from 2 blog IDs.
The other thing you could do too is simplify it a little bit. There's multiple WordPress plugins out there just to pull in like RSS feeds. Take that feed from those 2 or 3 particular blogs, add them to that widget, and then just chronologically dump them out in that one specific place. That way you're not running a bunch of back and forth and all these blogs trying to pull all this data in. Just grab the feed and throw it in there.
Yeah.
That way you can just copy, paste, put it in, and there it goes. That's
But
all.
make sure you're not solving a problem that was created because your construct wasn't right to begin with. You know what I mean? Think about, should the content live where I'm thinking of putting it? Because we're thinking about, right, you put content into 2 separate blogs, now you're like, well, geez, I got to pull the content back into a widget. Should they have been constructed that way in the first place? Was it necessary? Could have been just 2 categories in one blog.
Because technically, some of the challenges are that when you have multiple blogs, and this is kind of the nerd answer, so bear with it, but when you have just one blog on one thing, you're loading the whole WordPress environment, doing all the technical side of it. If you want to pull blog posts from 5 or 10 different blogs, to grab all of those posts means that you're switching to that blog, grabbing those posts, bringing them in. Switch to the next blog, load the whole environment, all behind the scenes, grab that information, pull it in. So unless you use like a feed or you use something that is kind of built to not have to go through all that motion, it can kind of be a drag, to try and do some of those things. So it's kind of one of those things that you really have to try and pay attention a little bit, because you can bring the whole website to a screeching halt pretty quick if you're just pulling 100 queries into all these databases and bring them back in. It turns into a nightmare sometimes. So
Let me show you real quick before I go on, and this may scare a beginner, but this is really low-level stuff. But it's we put it into the category of little tweaks that change the way the site level of activity is created. We added a placeholder tag for replies onto every post because we found the forum postings started getting long and there were lots of them. And people, when someone would put in a post like this, which is awesome, everybody would forget to go down here to reply. They wouldn't think of it. It's not on their screen. Not everybody has a 30-inch cinema display. So we added this just to the template very quickly. Poof. And engagement off the roof. Boom. Once again, those little things. You can do that or have someone help you do it. It's not something that he needs to be bothered with, per se. This is in your domain to do. Think about how those things make your site go. Yeah.
So it's just part of the display template?
Yeah. Yeah. It's as you see me hover over this down there in the bottom left, right there. My reply. It's a placeholder, easy, style it up. People
like that.
And because they see the word reply and they click on it and they're like, oh, and they just start. That's it. That's all they care about.
So is there a place now on the BuddyPress site for ideas like that other people wouldn't otherwise hear about because they're in your private?
Oh, it's funny you say that. I'm going to talk to him. You're going to laugh, and I don't know what to do with this, but I literally was sitting in the Unconference put together there we had this morning and saw if it was available and literally registered bpuser.com. I couldn't believe it was available, but BP, everybody knows what BP is in our community, right? So BP user, and I'm thinking, depending on where the BuddyPress.org, if it starts moving towards the developer site, so to speak, making, I don't know, either we create a group inside BuddyPress.org for usability and how that kind of stuff, or we have this domain. But yeah, there should be something that is not for developers, that is for people that want to use it to tweak it. The lower level kind of stuff, but the more familial things. Yeah, we should have a group doing it. It should be discussed. Absolutely.
And I think that on top of that is the BuddyPress.org forums. I mean, we're on them constantly. And it is a growing community, but we use the community's feedback to grow the platform all the time. So if there is a suggestion, if you have a concern, if you say, maybe this could be better, this is my whatever, you let us know or make a post, or if you're...
So this reply idea might work its way into the main center.
If it works and it's convenient and everybody seems to say, yeah, that's a go, then we'll, throw it in there. Because it just everybody agrees. It's kind of it is a community thing, and that's the beauty of GPL, the open source model, is you can jump in. If you want to help, you got something to say, then do it. Jump in, and there's nothing stopping.
Do you have a pet project that motivates you to be part of this, in the same way that he does?
It's called BuddyPress.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, do you run a community? What got you?
Long story short is nothing else. There's nothing else like it. There just isn't anything out there that does what this does. Mm-hmm. And when you look at other software that's there, it's a compromise. You've got bits and pieces of ways to try to make stuff work, and BuddyPress just does all of it. So even from the way that I found it, I guess, is having used other software and found that it didn't do what I wanted it to do, and seeing ways that this could just advance and very quickly advance. And that's what, kind of like what I just said, was found myself with some spare time and contribute. Start saying, here's a bug, I'll fix it. Here's something that needs to get changed a little bit, I can find it and patch it. And just a couple every day, do a couple of things, give some feedback, help some people out, then kind of ended up to work out good. So.
I'll throw some out there for new folks to also feel better about as well. You may or not, Andy and JJ will recognize this. We have a theme that we're working on, which doesn't look anything like BuddyPress. But this theme is what's live right now for the time being. And all this is I took West Point's colors and skinned the BuddyPress theme, so it would be semi-familiar to them, and leave it at that. The new theme, because we waited till the parent-child theme structure came out and all that, it looks like nothing, but it's all geared towards the lessons we've learned in the last 6 months of usage and everything. But you can go in and do a quick skin if you want, and then, because we're building components and trying to figure out what's going to work before we prettify everything, if you will. So yeah, this is just a colored skin. Yeah.
I'm confused.
That's okay.
No worries.
I have a blog, like I said, and when I came, I was thinking I was going to, at some point, make it a multi-user blog. And because BuddyPress wasn't like final or wasn't out, someone said they're merging something or whatever. Now I'm like, I don't know what to do. BuddyPress works with multi-user as a
Plugin.
Okay, that's the word I'm looking for. Okay, because I was like, is it something totally different? But it's not totally different.
No,
It's a plug.
It's just a plugin on top of
Download it, turn it
PMU.
on, and then it's a plugin that comes with some themes, and the theme is ultimately this.
Okay, so I would go get my site transferred to multi-user, and I'm thinking like all these features are nice, but I don't want to do those right now.
You don't have
But
to.
some of them, like I said, the community input thing, I could just implement that one thing.
Yes.
And forget about all the other stuff.
And even with like BuddyPress, since it is a plugin with several components. So if you don't want your users to add each other as friends, turn it off. If you don't want them to private message each other, turn it off. If you don't want them to have groups, don't even let them create a group. Turn it off. There's just an admin panel, an option, off. Save
It's
it.
like,
and
when you
it's
were saying
gone.
about moderating, I'm like, that, if I let everybody do all this stuff, I have to pay attention to it when I need to focus on the other part.
There's two kinds of moderating to consider in community land. There's moderating what people can do to create components and modify components and the permissioning that goes along with that. And then there's moderating the content that they create.
Well, I'm concerned about the content.
Keep
more
that
so.
two separate.
Because I'm, like I want to build, like, if I kind of shape what I want, and then people will say, okay, either this is the place for this, and this is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
But if I like let it be a free for all, I don't know what it might turn into. And that's where, like, in my looking at other online communities, I see that sometimes where it's not tightly focused in the beginning, people kind of turn into something else.
Well, the thing with like multi-user, think of like, to what you said is that like the merger, the difference between like single user WordPress or multi-user WordPress and what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Number one, I don't think it's anything that anybody needs to worry about. So it's not going to be this drastic change where everything's going to disappear and you're going to have to go through this whole process. You can use WordPress MU and still only have one blog.
Well, that's what I just realized today. It clicked. I think I'm going to do that.
Yep.
And then the changes, whatever happens, I hopefully won't notice it.
Exactly. I mean, you can just use BuddyPress as like a community layer, to give people an avatar they can upload, to give them some profile fields they can fill in. So now they can join your blog or join your community, and you decide what it is, how they're going to talk to each other, and how that whole thing's going to interact based on what your needs are for your own, website. I mean, that's what I think a lot of people started out with is you don't want to just have a free-for-all where you've got people signing up and creating groups about puppies and Ferraris and random bicycling, and it doesn't make any sense. It's irrelevant. So you kind of wait until people have a need, and then you open it up a little bit.
Just remember though, evaluate every tool. Facebook Connect, another example. This is like I said, the C-SPAN model for us. It's a bit of a walled garden. People are okay with it being public, but they also kind of expressed feedback. They didn't want everything they did sent out to the four winds, onto Facebook, etc. So the convenience of the Facebook Connect was outweighed by the fact that we don't want to throw everything out of the wall. If you want to see what's going on, come look. So we don't use Facebook Connect. We make people go through, because think about it as well, Facebook Connect, it doesn't have their class year and their cadet company. I have specific fields that are required to be a part of this community. So, on the other hand, if you have a site that's more open, but it's just kind of like an aggregation of a Venn diagram of topics, then maybe Facebook Connect's perfect for you. Just that you have to go through that process before you just slap it up, because then you're going to slap it up and get behaviors that you might not have thought about. And then what do you do?
I think just to respond to you, like you said, it's important to know what your audience is and what is it that you want to create, because BuddyPress might be a little overkill. I think you mentioned you wanted create some sort of board where people can, start conversations and join in. And for that, I mean, BuddyPress might be, all you need, which is based on WordPress, but it's strictly for like a bulletin board.
Well, what I started out with a local, it's going to be like a local newspaper where I do hyper-local stories, whatever. And people from the community send me so much stuff. Some of it, it's not relevant, but it should, other shit is not relevant. I place certain things, certain topics as a low priority. And if I had all the time in the world, I'd put it all out there. But since I can't do it all, I want to create a way where they can do all that stuff, and then I would do like the original reporting stuff and, get people to focus on issues with higher priority.
So they're submitting like story ideas or like actual posts?
Well, they email me all types of information. Put this on your blog, and it's like some of the stuff I do, some of it I don't. Right now on Twitter, it's like, I don't know, 7,000 or 8,000 people. They send me all this stuff. Can you retweet this? Can you do this? Can you do that? And it's like, I don't have time to do all that. I want to make it where they can communicate with each other, or they can put up whatever, and people can, go look at it. And
it depends on what level of like moderation that you want to have, because if you wanted to integrate, and Andy built a Twitter plugin live yesterday for BuddyPress, so you can import all your tweets right into your BuddyPress. So like if you wanted to just bring the two together and just have all of the people that tweet you or at you show up on your website, you don't even have to try and make a blog post for it. They just say, hey, retweet this. Now it's not on your Twitter, but it's on your website.
Of course, you open it up to content issues that you may not approve of. But hey, there's a guy that I don't remember. Anybody remember the guy who runs the hyperlocal New Jersey site? He's at the conference.
Yeah, I saw it yesterday.
Look what he's done. See how he's doing it.
Well, basically, in my head, with the traditional WordPress blog, I would want to do everything in my own categories and just, like I said, make one category for community, whatever. And then all the emails that people send me, they can post. But then it's like, I'll use an example. Someone is looking for mentors to like mentor kids in the community, and she repeatedly sends me stuff. So originally I was going to make her like a community partner or something and say, put up whatever you want, whenever you want. Like I was going to approve people with my solo WordPress installation, but now even that's time consuming, but if I could make it public where anybody could sign up and I would moderate, like the guy from New Jersey, he said at some point you still have to moderate.
Yeah, BuddyPress is pretty well suited for what you're trying to do, and you just tweak it with permissioning as necessary.
And you can make another blog, and then you could put 4 or 5 people on that blog. You can put them as contributors, and then you can moderate what they say. If you really wanted to do that, you can. It just depends on how much time you want to spend doing it. Because if someone you trust, then make them an editor, and then that person now can contribute for you, and they can take over the task, and they can do most of that stuff. You trust them,
The one thing I would want to do is that I learned people don't get tagging and like categorizing and all that stuff. I would want, that's the only thing that I think I want to like, and I tweak titles. Like right now I have writers, work with me, but I know more SEO, they don't know that kind of stuff. So for the important stuff, I tweak it and then press publish.
Well, the word tag it's too like ambiguous, and with like WordPress 2.5, I don't remember what they did, but you can start your own. You can have your own tag cloud. You can call it whatever you want. So you can have one cloud called location or city. You can have another cloud that's called time. You can have all these different ways that don't just mean tag, but you still use it like a tag. So you can
I
click
see
on
that on
links
other
and
sites,
you
but
can,
I don't know how that's worked.
It's one line of code, put it in there, and there it is.
You have a question?
I just wanted to bring up forums. We haven't really
Forums.
talked about the end
Yeah.
forum. So in the groups, you have a group created. I know you don't necessarily have to have forums, but for them to be able to post in the way that you're talking about here, they obviously then you need to have the BuddyPress activated, or is that the group block? So let's say I belong to the film group.
Yep.
If somebody decides just to browse the forums, because I don't know, I haven't seen it in action because I haven't put it in. can anyone outside of the group also post to
Depends
that
on the
forum?
privacy options you select.
Okay. Can you just show me what the forums look like?
These are our forums.
Okay.
These are some of the
So
popular
it's not
ones.
traditional, line, this is
Well-
the way forms display.
To its credit, and one of my favorite things is that BuddyPress takes, BBPress in its native format is the 20-year-old forum-looking bulletin board,
Right.
which is obviously, it's been around for a long time because it works, and people are very used to that, and that's okay. But it starts to go beyond what it really can do, etc. So BuddyPress actually, I think, does a great job in turning that a little bit on its head. So let's go into a group, all right? And of course, the group has the forum, and here are these active, in BuddyPress format, which is obviously a modification of the BBPress. But 1.1 introduced a forums menu, higher level menu, which kind of does some featuring. I haven't even tweaked this because I kind of don't need to. And if you notice, this has a little bit more of a prettied up BBPress look to it.
But
okay?
it's more of the traditional.
Yeah,
type.
people still like it. Now, you know what we get? We get half the crowd hangs out in the group and interacts in the forum that way because they like it. And then we get some old schoolers who were like complaining, where did the old bulletin board thing go? And hey, you're gonna get that. And they keep coming to here to do their interaction.
So on the group, the forum posts just basically display almost like blog posts.
Well, here, I'll tell you, let's go into the teachers group. And,
Right.
here's a topic.
Right.
Here are the conversations. And boom.
that's where you put in your own tweet for those little.
Yes, I did.
And because it is a theme, if you want to spend some time to make it look more like a traditional bulletin board, it's not any different than making like a WordPress theme. You
I
find the
didn't
file.
really want to, but seeing how it works here, I think it might be useful, especially since we're trying to transition from a traditional forum, and we were thinking about keeping that and adding this, but then they've jumped from one area to another. So.
Well, and this is the, and we get that a lot. When people talk about how forums work, what your expectations are, and how they're linked to groups, and it's not like a traditional bulletin board kind of look or feel. It's your basic feedback that we hear all the time. If you really wanted it that way, like a traditional bulletin board setup, you could do it. You could spend the time, or you could have it set up that way. WordPress.org has a traditional forum. BBPress.org looks like a forum. There's still WordPress integrated with it, but it looks the part. So it's possible to do those things. But for BuddyPress to encompass it and attach it to something that is user-centric, putting it in a group is just putting a forum in another box. Doesn't matter where it takes you in the URL, doesn't matter what you call it. What matters is that your users understand it. And you can theme it if it doesn't fit it. You just have to spend some time to make it look the part. So if you want your categorized left to right, top to down, like table, everything exists to pull that in and make it happen. But BuddyPress, the core of it, when you open the box, everything's, like I said, it's kind of on an even keel. Forums are another thing of groups, are another thing of status updates, and activity feed, they're just straight across the board.
So out of the box, it looks the way you just displayed it. Okay. And I just want to say the BuddyPress forums are awesome. So if anyone has any questions,
They are.
the BuddyPress forums are awesome for a lot of these questions because I've been bugging everyone.
I think the groups are what's going to explode in the next 6 months to a year, and with a group extension API and the things that are going to be built with it. The reason I think that is because this is a site for West Pointers. Okay, great. But groups are contextually related, topically centered things. That's why they were pulled in, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but that's why they were pulled into the groups in the first place, because a BBPress install has forums, which are kind of like topics, but they're just all there, and you got to go searching through it and find it. But here, top group right there. It's funny, I just refreshed and this popped to the top. So somebody who's an armor officer just did something, and it's a concept. I was an engineer. I'm not a member of this group. Because I don't care about that topic nearly as much. And there's so many things. We're going to have things like, pictures that are associated with the group, but then are uploaded by various members who are members of other groups, and it's got some really cool group events, group blog posts, which is a concept that is still, we've got some folks, the form is great, but then you've got guys who are like, I really want to write a thought piece for the group. How do I do that? Because right now I just have to write a really long forum post, and it doesn't quite fit that mold. So, but the good thing is they want to hang out in the group that they care about, or various groups.
And that's better than actually having them have a blog that's separate from the group. Because you're saying, like with Poop Deck, everyone's...
Yeah, Poop Deck has a focus that has nothing to do with groups.
But I'm just talking about in general. So rather than have the group have a blog that they all belong to, this way
they're not going to, think about it this way, they're not going to know that they even belong to the blog. I want it to be so that, like I said, think about it, what you kind of want them to be able to do. I didn't say I want them to write blog posts. I want them to be able to write a more thoughtful piece that's too much for a forum posting. We're going to use the vehicle of a blog post in order to do that. We'll probably pull the entry interface into the front end so that they don't go somewhere else, and they'll know where to go.
And I think that like the long-term vision of something like BuddyPress is even BuddyPress does not necessarily look like your typical forum. Forums are very categorical. I go into this category and now I know that these things mean this thing. But when you look at like BuddyPress right out of the box, you have a bunch of topics on the top.
See, I've never used it. We're using it.
So even BuddyPress focuses less on where you are, but more on what you are talking about. And the way that BuddyPress uses that idea is if there is a topic, you can see what group it's part of, but if you're not in that group and it's an open group and it's still something you want to talk about, if you go into that topic and you make posts and you reply, you're going to join that group automatically. So what that means is, using the group's functionality, now you start to get tied into who on your website is interested in the things that you are too. So now you can start relating some of that data in a real way. Because I would have never, what happens with forums, if you have 50 forums, a lot of people just live in that one. I'm interested in puppies. I'm going to stay in the puppies forum. Maybe I don't have anything else that's going on there, but now I see a post that's about something else that I would have never thought to look in because I live in puppies. It's where I talk about it. So now I see that post and I meet other people on this website that are into other things I would have never looked for. So it's a way to try to tie everything in and let people start finding people that they wouldn't have otherwise found.
Here's something that doesn't happen on the community that we have. I can't speak for the whole BuddyPress install. Are any Mac users familiar with Handbrake? Right? Yeah. It's the video encoding. It's great. It's for ripping and stealing DVDs.
Very.
Did I say that? Can you edit that?
What?
What did I say?
Fair use.
Fair use. The DVDs that I own. There's a support forum on the Handbrake website.
Stealing your own DVDs from yourself.
Jack Valenti would argue with that.
That's right. There's a forum on their support forum, very active and very useful. There's a thread that's 2 years old. It just lives and goes on and on. It's got 99 pages, and it's probably covered 26 different topics. And I think that's a tragic evolution of the use of that kind of construct. And it never happens with us. It's amazing when people want to take a conversation in a different direction, whatever. They seem to always be posting new topics because it's laid out differently for them, and it just seems logical because it's all right there, and they're like, why would I start talking about this when I'm in this? You know what I mean? It just, I don't know why it never happens, but that never happens. So that we keep getting new topics created, or they go to the group where it makes more sense, and then they create one. And the more you make it easy for them to do, you'll find that those solutions get found. Interestingly.
How much does email integration of email notifications of things happening? How do you deal with that?
Well, we wrote a plugin and then integrated some of our stuff into Boone's plugin, which is better because it gives more control for email notifications for forum postings and control of that. And to me, that was the best thing we ever did for the site. because nobody was interacting unless they came back to the site to see what was new. And that's just not a behavior you can get people to do.
It's opt-in. It's basically opt-in.
Well, yeah, we default everybody, they're signed up. And no, it's opt-out, actually.
Opt-out.
Yeah, because if you ask people, they get scared. So it's better to just, look, if you join the group, then you clearly care about the group. So you're going to be notified when forum postings are happening. If you kind of just say, I don't want that anymore, then turn it off. But they won't think to opt in on their own. So we opted in for them. And people are, the only problem that we actually have, which we've semi-solved, is that guys in the class of 65-ish and earlier, i.e. the older guys, they keep replying to the emails because that's all they know. And I get them as admin. So then we change the text to be like, dude, don't reply to this. This is a drop copy. But they don't get the Facebook model and all that. I mean, maybe one day you'll be able to reply and it'll cruise on into as a forum posting reply, which would be awesome, but that's easier said than done.
Actually, you know how Discuss works?
Yes.
Could you use Discuss with this?
The model is not applicable, either that or it's a WordPress component.
It'd be like plugin territory.
What's the WordPress comment?
Yeah.
Discuss.
Intense debate.
Intense debate.
Well, either one of them.
We don't want our comments going out to the world in the sense of existing on other systems. We don't mind that they're public in our wall, but we contain them. So therefore, Discuss
Somebody could just forward
doesn't
that
work.
email.
Well, it's not so much forwarding as that it just, when Discuss is a great thing when you want it to just touch as many spots as you can around the world. We are okay with it being public, but you got to come to our world to look at them. So that's what we choose.
I guess I was thinking about the people replying, using that reply feature.
I wish we could do that, but we're not going to use Discuss in order to get that. So.
Could you just go back into the group thing so we can just see what all the options are in a group?
Options as a user or options as an admin?
Options as a user, yeah.
Which options are you kind of referring to?
Activity, profile, blog.
Oh, right.
So what is Wire?
Wire is the best way to think of it. It's kind of like the Facebook wall. It's and Andy spoke of this yesterday, where they're talking, the merging of concepts, et cetera, is happening, which is a good thing because the wall is a place to shout out. The wire is a place to shout out. I get some people put messages on people's walls that the wires that they thought were private messages because they didn't quite get it. And it's not a threaded conversation just yet. So if you try to start a conversation on the wire, it'll die on the vine. I don't dislike it, but it's kind of like it's searching for a meaning, right?
Is it like the Facebook newsfeed?
It's like the wall.
You know what?
It's like someone's wall.
The best way to currently describe the wire is it's kind of just like a guest book.
Yeah.
If you remember what a guest book was, where you just have a place to post something and there it is. That's the best way to describe it.
Hi everybody, I'm here. What's new, 87?
So that's
it doesn't get used much.
But when there are plans for the wire and some other things to get a little bit of a facelift, so I mean, I think that now it is just like a placeholder, and things will come together in a couple of months, and things will start to integrate and make a little bit more sense for that. But right now, it's just a sounding board.
Could it be kind of like a status update for the group?
Well, it could be. There is for the group. If you go to the admin, there is description and news, so you could put your status, as news, and you could use it for something like that too. If all of your group members have access to, if you want them to have that wire ability to do that, so you could. But I would use the news. Because you're the group admin, so you determine what the status of that group is. Instead of all of your 100 members saying, "Here's a new thing." The wire is more or less just open discussion. It because the wire looks like the forum. It's just a top-down discussion. It almost is like a topic of the forum. It's really how you would use it. But
As a user, if you log in, do you see the wires from each of your groups that you're a member of?
Every time, yeah, exactly. Well, no, not in like a central place.
You don't have an individual homepage as a user?
Right. Well, no, not like...
We've thought about actually, you could template that out on your own pretty easily. We've thought about something along those lines. There's things that I've done, which is already there. It's like your own personal activity. So I can click on that and see all that. But then there's the concept of things that are occurring in all the places that I joined and care about.
Right.
That doesn't exist, but it could.
Mm-hmm.
Not that difficulty.
The activity stream is where everything kind of comes together. Where all of your group-related activity, all of your related activity, your friends' activity, they add somebody as a friend, you can look at their activity and see what they did. If there's a new group forum post or a new group wire post, then you can go and see group activity. But you're right, there isn't a place to say, here are my 11 groups, and here's what's happened in all of them at the same time, you know, so.
But the concept is a lot of merit, probably. Yeah.
I have two questions. On the email notification of the group postings, can people both get them as a digest or as individuals? Is that an option?
It's not an option in the plugin, and we've debated heavily on whether we should do that because the concept of a digest is great, but it tends to have the behavior of pulling people away from your site. And I'm not trying to, well, because it means that you don't have to go back.
Unless you want to reply.
Yeah, unless you want to reply. I don't know, there's pros and cons.
Okay. And the second question is there any concept of incorporating other kinds of group activity besides events and talking, which is basically what this is, such as free cycle, where people are sharing, exchanging goods for free, that somebody wants to get rid of something, somebody else wants it, or sharing housing, those kinds of more...
That has to be built. And we're working on two concepts. And I would throw this out there as if you have a community that's niche by definition, they're closer than a Facebook community of 130 million people. Okay, so there's a trust level that exists, and the more tightly knit your community is, the higher the trust level. So ours is high already, as you can imagine. We had a guy who's a published author, a prolific author, class 58, came up with the idea. He said, I'd like to offer mentorship on how to get yourself published to other grads. That's it. I don't want to offer it up to the world, but just grads. And so we're actually constructing a mentor-mentee board, which is a way to offer your mentorship and then seek mentorship within the site. It's kind of like job postings, but it's not really. Yeah, that's an example.
And you'll hide that essentially then.
Pardon me?
And you'll essentially hide that then. It'll be more of a hidden thing.
Yeah, well,
not the
hidden
same model.
The question is that should the fact that Jim wants to be an author mentor to somebody, is the fact that he wants to do that a private thing to the rest of the world? Clearly, the rest of the world can't take him up on it. You know what I mean?
But they can pester him and bother him. And
how are they going to pester him and bother him? You can't contact any of our members if you're a non-member. There's nothing you can do. All you can do is see right now, like I said, it's C-SPAN. Yeah. You can't go talk to the senator. You just get to stand back and watch him.
You know, you get people's names, and you can figure out somebody's email frequently from their name. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I guess that possibility exists, but we've taken that small risk.
No, okay. If your community is accepting of it, that's great.
And the future part of BuddyPress really is going to involve a little bit more like privacy control. And that comes up like to the point of that it's kind of open to this point. Mm-hmm. You're friends or you're not, or you're in a group or you're not. But it doesn't mean that you can't see what I have in my profile. If I put it in there, there it is. You got it. That's it. It isn't like Facebook where I can say I only want my friends to see this and I want everyone to see this, and you can't fine-grain do that.
Although we may make the mentor board private.
To you guys?
That's something that's coming.
We could easily put that behind the wall.
Be like a core element.
Awesome.
So
yeah, because I can see that one of the things that I'm thinking about is having essentially the membership directory be either you get a choice of being in the public membership directory, but once you start posting, you're a public person, so that people could be kind of. Anyways,
so like to the
that'd
2
be
points.
Very interesting.
The 2 points are, and I'll go back to yours right away, is that from the developer side of this is the groups component does have a layer in the middle of it of code that allows developers to tap into it pretty quickly, pretty easily. So if you did want to have a group of users and they want to have like a classify so that they can put stuff up there and then I want it, we're good. If somebody wants to spend a couple of hours to make a plugin or a component that's just for groups that can get in the middle of there and introduce that, you can do that like with relative ease from a developer's perspective. And then to yours is like like when you install BuddyPress and you turn it on and there it is. It's a lot like WordPress. It's like your WordPress theme isn't the theme you're going to use. That blue, you know, you always change it.
Sure.
But it does show you the basics of what it can do. So you know you have all of your functions are there. Your threaded comments, if you want to turn them on. You've got pages and categories and widgets. You have all those things, but you don't use that theme. You go to something else. So for a theme author, you start with what you see, and then you tweak and you fix. So that's what comes with BuddyPress. It's the same concept. Is the theme is designed to give you all of the functions and the codes and the things and the places where you would want to start, and then you figure out what that means and you put it where you want it. So the basic like function of it is you have a members directory. Maybe you don't even want a members directory. Maybe you don't want anyone to see a list of your 150 users that are there. You want to have them find each other naturally through discussion or whatever else. Maybe like you don't need to have people find like if you don't know the person, you're not going to search for John because you don't know me yet. Why would you search for my name? Maybe it's irrelevant to your user base. You find where it is in that template, delete the code, and you know. I mean, if you really want to have your own thing, you shape it, you mold it, you fix it just like you would with WordPress. You know.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there going to be any kind of chat or conferencing component?
There is a live chat plugin that somebody else has developed currently that kind of works a lot like your typical Facebook bottom pops up and you can talk kind of thing. But the thing is that it's always on. It's like it's an intense plugin to always have running on everything.
Guys, I have to go. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I agreed to meet somebody at 11:45.
What's your name again?
Mike Pratt, and I'm on BuddyPress.org. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you, Mike.
Everything.